An ancient army of clay guards, a toxic secret buried for 2,000 years. This is the story of the Terracotta Army and the legendary river of Mercury, hidden beneath China's first emperor. By the end, you will understand how modern science is finally confirming a deadly ancient myth, and why this discovery forces us to confront a monumental ethical dilemma. We will uncover the staggering ambition behind these silent soldiers and explore the shimmering, poisonous river meant to grant eternal life. What does it truly mean to seek immortality, and at what cost? The story begins not with clay, but with a single man's impossible dream. Qin Shi Huang was a ruler whose very name means first emperor, a title he gave himself after achieving what no one else could. He united the warring kingdoms of ancient China under one banner, one law, and one will, his own. This was a monumental feat, ending centuries of conflict and forging a nation. Yet, for a man who had conquered the world of the living, the greatest enemy still loomed ahead, an enemy no army could defeat: his own mortality. This profound fear of the end, mixed with the absolute power he now wielded, created a unique kind of ambition. It was no longer enough to rule an empire for a lifetime. He needed to rule it forever. This belief that his power should transcend death itself is the seed from which the entire terracotta complex would grow. His vision was for a necropolis, a city of the dead that mirrored his capital, a perfect replica where his rule would continue eternally. Every decision, every project was filtered through this lens of everlasting sovereignty. The silent army waiting in the dark was not merely a grand burial artifact. It was the permanent garrison for an emperor who refused to accept that his command could ever cease. For 2 millennia, the emperor's silent garrison waited undisturbed in the dark earth. Their rediscovery was not the work of scholars with maps and tools, but a moment of pure chance. In the spring of 1974, a group of farmers in Lintong County were simply trying to solve a practical problem: a severe drought. They needed water, and so they began to dig a well. Their shovels hit not soft soil, but something hard and unyielding, a baked clay surface. As they cleared more earth, a life-sized human head emerged, staring back at them from the depths. It was a moment of profound shock, the past literally rising to meet the present. They had accidentally broken through the roof of an underground chamber, the very first vault of what we now call Pit 1. Word of the find traveled quickly to local authorities, and soon archaeologists arrived. What they began to uncover, layer by careful layer, defied all expectation. It was not a single statue, but a vast, organized military formation frozen in time. Row upon row of terracotta soldiers, each standing over 6 feet tall, emerged from the soil. The sheer scale was breathtaking, but the detail was what truly stunned the world. Every single face was different. There were young recruits with determined expressions, seasoned veterans with stern, lined features, officers with an air of quiet authority. They wore different hairstyles, different armor, even different expressions of focus and readiness. This was not a generic army of clones. It was a meticulously crafted portrait of a real, living military force. The global archaeological community was electrified. This was instantly recognized as one of the most significant discoveries of the 20th century, a time capsule from the dawn of imperial China. Yet, as breathtaking as Pit 1 was, it presented an even bigger revelation. This army of thousands was not the main event. They were the guardians, the outer perimeter. Their positioning, all facing east toward the former rival states the emperor had conquered, made it clear they were stationed to protect something or someone at the center. The true heart of the complex, the emperor's own resting place, lay undisturbed under a large, unexcavated mound a little over a mile away. The farmers' well had not just uncovered statues, they had unlocked the front gate to a lost city of the dead, sparking a scientific investigation that continues with immense caution and respect to this very day. This staggering diversity raises a profound question for the archaeologists who first saw them. How was this even possible, creating an army of 8,000 unique soldiers, each with distinct features, in an era before mass production or digital scanning, represents a logistical and artistic puzzle that rivals the scale of the project itself. The leading theory is as human as the statues themselves. It points to a vast, organized workshop system, a kind of ancient factory for immortality. Master sculptors and their apprentices likely worked in guilds, each specializing in different body parts, armor types, or facial expressions. They may have used a modular system, assembling torsos, legs, arms, and heads from standardized molds to ensure structural integrity and military uniformity. But then, in a final act of breathtaking artistry, the artisans would have applied wet clay to these molded bases to sculpt the fine details. This is where individuality bloomed. Fingernails, strands of hair, the intricate ties of armor, the subtle wrinkles of a brow, and most importantly, the faces were all hand-finished. It is here that the ghost of a living model may appear. Some historians suggest that teams of actual soldiers from the emperor's vast armies could have sat for these artisans, their visages captured in clay to create a true portrait of the Qin military. Others believe the artisans simply drew from a deep well of memory and observation, populating the ranks with every face they had ever seen in a market, on a road, or in their own workshops. The result, intentional or not, is a frozen census of an ancient people. You can see regional features, different ages, and the entire spectrum of human expression held in readiness, from youthful eagerness to veteran stoicism. This transforms the army from a symbolic guard into something far more powerful. It becomes a mirror, reflecting not just military might, but the very humanity of a lost empire, preserved in fired earth for 2,000 years. The true genius of these figures lies not just in their artistry, but in their engineering. To understand the army, you must look past the finished soldier and see the puzzle of its creation. Each life-sized warrior began not as a single block of clay, but as a series of carefully crafted components. Artisans used a technique called slab construction, rolling out thick sheets of clay and forming them around wooden frames to create the sturdy, hollow torsos. This was a critical innovation, preventing the clay from exploding in the intense heat of the kiln. Legs were solid pillars for stability, while arms, heads, and hands were crafted separately, often using molds for consistency before being meticulously detailed by hand. Think of it as the world's most ambitious and ancient assembly line, producing standardized parts for a force of thousands, yet leaving room for profound individual expression in the final touches. The next challenge was as monumental as the first, transforming fragile clay into durable ceramic. Firing 8,000 large, complex sculptures required more than a simple pottery kiln. It demanded an industrial-scale operation. Historians believe massive, trench-like kilns were dug into the nearby hillsides, acting as enormous, temperature-controlled ovens. Managing the heat distribution in these structures to fire hundreds of figures at once, without warping or cracking them, speaks to a masterful, hard-won understanding of materials and thermodynamics. This was ceramic engineering on a military scale. After their trial by fire, the warriors received their final, most stunning detail, a coat of vibrant paint. Lacquers made from tree sap were applied as a primer, followed by rich mineral-based pigments, creating faces with lifelike rosy cheeks, armor laced with bright colors, and vivid detailing on uniforms. This original polychrome finish, most of which has flaked away after centuries of burial, reminds us that the silent, earthen-gray army we see today was once a breathtakingly colorful and lifelike host. This entire process, from the mining of the clay to the final brushstroke, represents a pinnacle of ancient industrial organization and artistic skill. It forces us to ask if this was the guardian force, crafted with such staggering effort and knowledge, what unimaginable complexities await in the emperor's own chamber, the sealed heart of the complex they were built to protect. Yet for all its breathtaking scale, the Terracotta Army we can see today is merely the outer guard. The true heart of the complex and the source of its greatest mystery remains sealed beneath a large, grassy mound a short distance away. This is the unopened central tomb of Qin Shi Huang himself. While the surrounding pits have revealed their secrets, this central chamber holds its silence, protected not just by earth, but by a 2,000-year-old legend that modern science is now struggling to explain. Our most detailed account comes from the great historian Sima Qian, writing about a century after the emperor's passing. He describes a subterranean palace of unimaginable splendor, a microcosm of the emperor's realm. The ceiling, he wrote, was inlaid with pearls to represent the constellations of the night sky. On the floor below, a vast map of the empire was created, with its great rivers and oceans simulated by something extraordinary, something both beautiful and deadly, flowing Mercury. For centuries, this was read as poetic metaphor, a fanciful tale of imperial grandeur. Then, science began to listen. In the 2000s, teams of archaeologists conducted extensive soil surveys around the burial mound using remote sensing technology. Their findings were startling. The soil directly over the tomb structure showed mercury concentrations dramatically higher than the surrounding area, in some places nearly 100 times the normal background level. This pattern wasn't random, it seemed to mirror the flow of waterways. Here was tangible, geochemical evidence that appeared to corroborate an ancient text. It suggests that somewhere in that dark, undisturbed chamber, the legendary rivers of Mercury might indeed be waiting, their toxic shimmer preserved through the millennia. This presents the modern world with an almost paralyzing dilemma. The temptation to open the tomb to finally see if the stories are true is immense. What other wonders might lie within, yet the risks are equally monumental. Our technology may still be insufficient to preserve what we find. The vivid paints on the terracotta warriors flaked away rapidly upon exposure to air, a heartbreaking loss. What far greater treasures, perhaps delicate silks, wooden artifacts, or even ancient texts, could turn to dust before our eyes? And then there is the mercury itself, a highly toxic element that could pose a serious danger to any excavators and potentially leak into the local environment. So the question becomes one of profound responsibility. Do we seek knowledge, knowing we might destroy the very thing we wish to understand? Or do we choose preservation, allowing the tomb to keep its secrets, forever wondering what truly lies within that miniature universe? It is a conflict between our deepest curiosity and our duty to the past, a silent standoff at the gates of immortality. Mercury's shimmering, liquid form held a powerful and dangerous allure in the ancient world. To understand why an emperor would surround his final resting place with a toxic river, we must step into a mindset where science and magic were not yet separate, where a substance's most striking physical property was seen as its spiritual essence. In China, mercury was primarily obtained from a beautiful red ore called cinnabar. This vibrant mineral was more than just a source of metal. It was a pigment for sacred art, a component in ritual objects, and most significantly, the cornerstone of early alchemical pursuits for eternal life. Alchemists believed that because mercury could dissolve gold and possessed a brilliant, almost living mobility, it contained the very principle of vitality and transformation. It was thought to be a key ingredient in elixirs of immortality, potions designed to purify the body and halt the decay of age. This is the tragic irony at the core of our story. Historical accounts strongly suggest that Qin Shi Huang, in his desperate quest to live forever, regularly consumed such elixirs which undoubtedly contained mercury. His relentless pursuit of immortality likely led to a severe, slow poisoning, a physical decline stemming from the very substance he believed would save him. So why place it in his tomb? The river served a profound dual purpose, blending cosmic symbolism with potent magic. On one level, it was a grand symbolic gesture. By modeling the great waterways of his unified empire in Mercury, he was claiming dominion over the very lifeblood of the land for all eternity. It was a cartographic statement of perpetual rule. On a deeper alchemical level, the Mercury River was likely intended as an active agent of preservation and transformation. Just as it was believed to purify and immortalize the living body through elixirs, it might be tasked with protecting his spirit and preventing the decay of his physical form in the afterlife. The flowing metal would create a shimmering, magical barrier against corrupting forces. This was not merely decoration, it was a deadly serious preservation strategy, weaving together the most advanced geographical understanding of the era with the most powerful superstitions of the age. The Emperor's final project fused the mapmaker's precision with the alchemist's dream, resulting in a tomb that was both a model of his kingdom and a crucible for his everlasting soul. The silent burial mound holds its secrets, but we are no longer completely blind to what lies within. Modern science has given us a kind of X-ray vision, allowing archaeologists to map the unseen without ever breaking the sacred seal of the tomb itself. Teams have deployed a silent arsenal of non-invasive technologies, listening to the Earth in ways the ancients could never have conceived. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses of energy deep into the soil, painting a picture of hidden chambers and walls by reading their echoes. Electrical resistivity tomography measures how easily currents pass through the ground, revealing differences between solid earth, voids, and even metal deposits. These scans have confirmed the existence of a vast, palace-like structure beneath the mound, a complex network of chambers matching the scale of an emperor's ambition. But the most compelling and chilling evidence comes from something far simpler: meticulous soil sampling. Scientists have taken core samples from all around the mound, analyzing their chemical makeup. The results are consistent and startling. The soil directly above the buried palace shows mercury concentrations that are not just slightly elevated, but in some areas nearly 100 times higher than the surrounding farmland. This is not a faint trace, it is a powerful geochemical signature. Even more intriguing, the pattern of this mercury anomaly is not a uniform blob. It appears to flow in distinct, branching pathways, mirroring the course of a river system across the mapped area of the tomb. This suggests a concentrated, deliberate source, a reservoir of liquid metal that has slowly, over 2 millennia, seeped its microscopic essence upward into the earth. It is the ghost of a river, its chemical footprint preserved long after its waters might have stilled. This data transforms Sima Qian's account from a fanciful legend into a probable physical reality. The ancient historian was not merely writing poetic metaphor, he was recording a startling truth about a tomb that used one of the most toxic substances on Earth to simulate the lifeblood of an empire. The scientific evidence now whispers that the legendary rivers of Mercury are not a myth, but a monumental and perilous fact waiting in the dark. This shimmering, poisonous river may have been more than a magical map. Beyond its symbolic and alchemical roles, the Mercury likely served a chillingly practical function, one that transformed the entire tomb into a lethal machine. Think of it as the final, inescapable layer of security. A large quantity of liquid mercury, sealed within an enclosed space for centuries, would slowly release toxic vapors into the air. Over time, this would create an atmosphere inside the burial chamber that was utterly unbreathable, a silent, invisible gas that would overwhelm any intruder long before they ever laid eyes on the emperor's treasures. This aligns perfectly with other historical descriptions of the tomb's defenses. The great historian Sima Qian also wrote that the passageways were rigged with mechanical crossbows, set to fire automatically at anyone who disturbed a tripwire. The architects of this eternal palace were not taking any chances. They thought in defensive layers like the rings of a fortress. The outer ring was the psychological deterrent, the terrifying reputation of a tomb cursed and guarded by an army of clay soldiers. The middle ring was mechanical, the physical threat of arrows springing from the dark, and the innermost, most insidious ring was chemical, an environmental trap that no strength or cunning could overcome. This was not merely a burial site, it was a system engineered for perpetual protection. The goal was to make the cost of intrusion lethally high, to weave together myth, machinery, and toxic science into a barrier meant to last for all eternity. It reflects a mindset where the sanctity of the ruler's rest justified any means to preserve it, turning the very concept of a tomb inside out. It was no longer a passive place of rest, but an active, dangerous entity designed to defend itself forever. This forces us to see the entire complex not just as a monument to power, but as a calculated exercise in permanent security, where even the air itself was weaponized to guard the silence of the underworld king. This instinct to weave danger into the sacred was not China's alone. Across the ancient world, in cultures that never knew of each other's existence, we find a strikingly similar pattern. The tombs of Maya and Aztec rulers in Mesoamerica, for instance, often contained cinnabar, the same vibrant red mercury ore, sprinkled over the remains as a sacred powder. It colored the journey into the afterlife with a pigment of royalty and spiritual power, believed to guide and protect the soul. Far to the west, in the burial mounds of Bronze Age Europe, archaeologists have found textiles treated with compounds of arsenic. This was not an accident, but a deliberate preservation technique, using a potent toxin to deter insects and microbial decay, safeguarding the physical vessel of the departed. These parallel practices from disconnected continents reveal a profound, shared ancient logic. Societies with no possible contact independently identified certain rare, brilliant, and dangerous substances as holding unique power. Mercury and arsenic were more than just elements, they were bridges between worlds. Their toxicity, which could end life, was paradoxically harnessed in rituals meant to transcend it. They served to demarcate the ultimate sacred space, the final resting place of royalty, setting it apart from the ordinary world with a barrier that was both physical and spiritual. This comparative view allows us to see Qin Shi Huang's Mercury River not as a singular obsession, but as part of a global human tradition of thanatological innovation, the study and practice surrounding the end of life. From the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Central America and the plains of China, the most powerful individuals sought to armor their legacy against time itself, using the most formidable materials their world knew. They shared a common belief that the journey after life required the most potent protections the living could provide, turning tombs into fortified treasuries of both wealth and belief, sealed with substances meant to last for eternity. This leaves us standing before the grassy mound, facing a profound and unresolved choice. To open the emperor's chamber would be to unlock a time capsule sealed at the dawn of imperial China, offering a direct, unfiltered view into his world. We could witness architectural wonders, read texts on bamboo slips that rewrite our understanding of his reign, and see artifacts of craftsmanship lost to time. The knowledge gained could be revolutionary, answering questions we have not even thought to ask. Yet, the price of that knowledge could be the utter destruction of the very things we seek to understand. We have already seen a preview of this loss with the terracotta warriors. Their breathtaking, lifelike colors, applied with organic lacquers, began to curl and flake away within minutes of exposure to our modern air. The vivid army we unearthed was, in a very real sense, fading before the eyes of its discoverers. If that happened to fired clay, what would become of the far more delicate treasures likely waiting inside? Silks, lacquerware, wooden documents, and even potential organic remains could turn to dust in a sudden, irreversible moment, lost forever because our technology was not gentle enough. Then there is the silent, shimmering danger hinted at by the soil samples. Disturbing the tomb could release concentrated mercury vapor, a severe risk to any research team and a potential environmental hazard for the surrounding landscape. This transforms the excavation from a simple archaeological dig into a complex and dangerous operation. More philosophically, there is the question of stewardship. Does our desire to know grant us the right to open a space designed for eternal rest? The tomb is a complete contextual snapshot, a moment frozen in ritual and intention. Breaking its seal shatters that context forever. We must ask ourselves if we are ready to bear the responsibility for what we might lose in the process of finding it. Sometimes the greatest act of respect for history is not to reveal it, but to protect its mystery for a future generation that might be better equipped to listen without causing harm. The ongoing work in the excavated pits is a quiet, meticulous war against time itself. Teams of conservators work in a delicate dance with chemistry and climate control, their goal not to restore the warriors to a false newness, but to stabilize them exactly as they were found. Their greatest victory has been in preserving the warriors' original colors. When a fragment of painted surface is exposed, they apply a special consolidant, a gentle chemical binder, within seconds to prevent the ancient lacquer from peeling and curling. It is a race measured in heartbeats, not hours. They have also developed ingenious methods to support the massive clay bodies, using internal stainless steel frames to prevent collapse without altering the external appearance. Yet for every solution, a new challenge emerges. The sheer scale of the site makes complete climate control nearly impossible. Humidity invites mold to grow on the ancient clay. Air pollution from the modern world can subtly degrade the surfaces. Even the vibrations from tourist footfall, the very people who come to witness this wonder, create microscopic stresses in the earth and the statues. This conservation effort is a constant, evolving dialogue with the past, teaching us humility. Every success with a terracotta soldier is hard-won, a testament to decades of scientific dedication. But these soldiers are made of fired earth, among the most durable materials the ancients used. They are the robust outer wall of the complex. The realization this work forces upon us is sobering. If preserving a sturdy clay figure in a controlled excavation pit is this complex and uncertain, what would we face inside the central tomb? The potential artifacts there, silken banners, lacquered boxes, wooden scrolls, are infinitely more fragile. They could be resting in an atmosphere saturated for millennia with mercury vapor, a toxic environment that may have altered their very molecular structure. To open that chamber now would not be an excavation but an emergency. We simply lack the technology to safely extract, stabilize, and preserve such delicate materials from such a hostile context. The ongoing conservation of the Terracotta Army is not just a museum project, it is the most powerful argument we have for patience. It serves as our crucial testing ground, a sobering reminder that sometimes the most advanced science of our age is not yet advanced enough. Our responsibility is not just to discover history, but to ensure it survives the moment of discovery. The shimmering rivers of Mercury present us with a fascinating historical puzzle, one that hinges entirely on a single ancient text. Our entire understanding of the tomb's interior comes from the writings of Sima Qian, the grand historian of the Han dynasty. But to accept his account at face value, we must first understand the man behind the words and the complex world in which he wrote. He compiled his records, called the Records of the Grand Historian, nearly a century after the first emperor's passing. This means he was not a contemporary witness, but a scholar piecing together stories from an era that had already passed into legend. More importantly, he wrote under a new imperial dynasty, the Han, which had risen to power by overthrowing the hated Qin regime. This political context is crucial. The Han rulers had a vested interest in legitimizing their own rule by painting the previous dynasty as tyrannical, extravagant, and morally bankrupt. A story about a ruler who wasted unimaginable resources to build a toxic, miniature kingdom for his corpse fits that narrative perfectly. It serves as a powerful lesson in the dangers of absolute power and hubris. So, when Sima Qian describes pearl-studded ceilings and Mercury oceans, we must ask, is this a factual report or a potent piece of political symbolism? The discovery of high mercury levels in the soil provides a stunning scientific corroboration that suggests his account was rooted in some tangible reality. Yet it does not prove every ornate detail. Scholars wisely suggest we view his work as a layered narrative, a blend of verifiable fact, collected rumor, and moral commentary. The Mercury was likely real, a breathtaking and dangerous feat of engineering. But the pearls in the ceiling might represent a metaphorical touch, a literary flourish to emphasize the emperor's desire to capture the cosmos itself. This analysis does not diminish Sima Qian's work, it enriches it. It transforms him from a mere chronicler into a complex figure, part historian and part storyteller, using the monumental folly of the past to warn the rulers of his own present. His account becomes a mirror reflecting not only what might be in the tomb, but also the profound anxieties and values of the society that came after, forever shaping how we see the quest for immortality. The silent clay soldiers were never meant to stand alone. They are merely the most visible garrison in a sprawling, hidden metropolis designed for eternity. Recent archaeological work has peeled back more layers of this funerary city, revealing its astonishing scope. The complex covers an area of roughly 38 square miles, a necropolis that was a mirror image of the emperor's living capital, Xi'an. Every facet of his imperial court and daily life needed a counterpart for the afterlife. So, alongside the military pits, excavators uncovered entirely new categories of terracotta figures. In one pit, they found a troupe of strongmen and acrobats frozen in mid-performance, their muscular forms captured in clay. Another chamber held a serene orchestra of musicians, kneeling with their ancient instruments, ready to provide eternal entertainment. Perhaps most telling of all was the discovery of terracotta bureaucrats, officials and scribes seated with an air of calm authority. This reveals the emperor's vision in its totality. He did not just need an army to protect his spirit, he required a complete administration to govern his underworld domain. The afterlife was to be a seamless continuation of his rule, with every function of the state replicated and ready. This meticulous duplication extended to the very transportation and prestige of his court. Separate pits contained the remains of real, sacrificed horses, their skeletons arranged with care. Nearby, archaeologists made one of the site's most breathtaking finds, 2 half-size bronze chariots, each drawn by a team of 4 bronze horses. These are not mere models, they are masterpieces of ancient metallurgy, comprising thousands of individually cast parts assembled with rivets and welding techniques. The chariots are complete down to functional windows with grating, intricate cloud patterns on the canopies, and drivers with precise, lifelike expressions. They were likely ceremonial vehicles meant for the emperor's spirit to inspect his domain or undertake processions in the world to come. Each discovery expands the map of this shadow capital. The acrobats and musicians provided recreation. The bureaucrats managed eternity's paperwork. The horses and chariots offered mobility and display. Every pit is a department in the government of death, a piece of a perfectly ordered universe built underground. Seeing this full context is transformative. It recasts the Terracotta Army from an isolated artistic marvel into one vital district of a planned afterlife metropolis. The warriors become the capital's permanent military garrison, stationed on the eastern approaches. This holistic vision underscores a staggering truth about Qin Shi Huang. His obsession with control did not end at the borders of his empire or the edge of his life. He sought to project his authority beyond the final frontier into the unknown itself. The limitless resources of a unified China were marshaled not just for a tomb, but to construct an entire mirrored reality where his will would remain law forever. It represents the ultimate act of micromanagement, a desire to script eternity itself, leaving nothing to chance or the whims of the gods. The Necropolis stands as his final and most comprehensive edict, a command etched not in stone, but in the very layout of the earth, stating with silent, overwhelming force that here, even in death, the emperor reigns. These bronze chariots are not just ornaments, they are functional machines frozen in time. Each chariot stands about half the size of a real one, yet every component, from the reins in the driver's hands to the intricate tread on the wheels, was crafted with obsessive precision. The first chariot, often called the High Chariot, is an open-air vehicle designed for standing, likely meant for inspection or ceremonial command. The second, the Enclosed Chariot, is a mobile sanctuary with solid walls, a roof, and tiny windows with sliding bronze lattices, offering the occupant both privacy and protection. What makes them true marvels, however, is their construction. They were not cast as single, solid lumps of metal. Each chariot is a complex puzzle of over 3,000 separate bronze pieces, assembled using techniques like casting, welding, riveting, and mortise and tenon joinery. The canopy of the enclosed chariot is a single, sweeping curve of bronze, thinner than an eggshell in places, created through the advanced lost wax method. This process involves making a detailed wax model, encasing it in clay, then melting the wax away to leave a hollow mold for the molten bronze. The result is a lightweight, perfectly formed roof. But the artisans did not stop there. They added breathtaking accents of gold and silver, inlaid into the bronze to depict swirling clouds, geometric patterns, and the intricate details of harnesses and bridles. The horses themselves are dynamic sculptures, their muscles taut, their heads alert, captured in mid-step. Even more astonishing, many parts were designed to move. The chariot axles turn, the doors on the enclosed model open and shut, and the reins are linked through a system of rings so that, in theory, a driver could actually steer the team. This level of mechanical realism transforms them from static grave goods into vehicles ready for an eternal journey. They represent a parallel pinnacle of technology to the Terracotta Army. Where the ceramic warriors showcase mass production and artistic individuality, these chariots showcase the zenith of elite precision metalworking. They are the emperor's private fleet, engineered for his spirit's travel through the afterlife, proving that the Necropolis was built by masters of every craft, all focused on a single, extraordinary commission. The breathtaking artistry of the Necropolis casts a long shadow, one measured not in clay but in human lives. To comprehend the full reality of this place, we must look past the silent ranks of soldiers and confront the immense human effort that summoned them into being. Historical accounts, primarily from the later Han historian Sima Qian, offer staggering figures. He writes that over 700,000 conscripted laborers were mobilized from across the empire, forced to toil on the project for nearly 40 years. This was not a voluntary workforce of artisans, but a vast engine of state power fueled by conscription. These individuals were farmers, peasants, and prisoners, torn from their homes and families for a single, consuming purpose: to build a city for the dead. The conditions were brutal. Workers faced back-breaking physical labor, excavating enormous pits by hand, hauling millions of pounds of clay and timber, and laboring in kilns with searing heat. Accidents would have been frequent and devastating. Many succumbed to exhaustion, to illness from poor sanitation and close quarters, or to the sheer physical toll of such an endless undertaking. Their names are lost, their stories untold, but their collective effort is the true foundation upon which every terracotta soldier stands. This staggering human cost forces us to hold two conflicting truths at once. The site is an undeniable testament to creative vision and organizational genius, yet it is equally a monument to profound exploitation, a duality that forever shadows its magnificence and complicates our awe. This duality deepens further when we consider the fate of those with the most intimate knowledge of the project. Ancient texts and persistent legends speak of a final, grim measure to ensure the tomb's eternal secrecy. It is said that after the emperor's body was laid to rest and the interior treasures sealed away, the inner passages of the tomb were closed. Then, according to these accounts, the artisans and engineers who designed the mechanical traps and knew the precise layout were prevented from leaving. The outer gate was sealed, trapping them inside, a permanent silence imposed to protect the location of the treasures and the mechanisms guarding them. Some versions of the legend extend this to members of the emperor's court, suggesting that those without children were also interred to serve him in the afterlife. While direct archaeological evidence for this specific event within the central mound remains, for now sealed away, researchers have found suggestive clues in the wider necropolis. Excavations have uncovered mass burial sites near the tomb complex containing remains that show signs of a sudden, non-natural end. These findings do not confirm the grisly legends in detail, but they do point to a cultural practice and a chilling imperial logic where human lives were considered expendable assets in the grand project of eternity. The secrecy of the tomb was paramount, and in that era, the most permanent way to keep a secret was to silence forever those who held it. This presents us with the central paradox of the entire site. We stand in admiration before objects of astonishing beauty and innovation. Each warrior's face a poignant echo of an individual life. Yet we know these very objects were born from a system of mass coercion and suffering. The necropolis is a mirror reflecting the pinnacle and the pit of human civilization simultaneously. It shows us what we are capable of at our most inspired, organizing thousands toward a single visionary goal, solving immense material and artistic challenges. And it shows us what we are capable of at our most absolute, treating human beings as mere resources to be consumed by the ambitions of one man. This is not a contradiction we can easily resolve, nor should we. To fully honor the past is to acknowledge all of its dimensions, not just the glorious artifacts but the often painful realities of their creation. The silent Terracotta Army, in its poignant individuality, now also silently asks us to remember the faceless multitude whose labor and lives were the price for its existence. Their story is woven into the very clay, an essential part of the legacy we must carry forward as we decide how to care for this place. It reminds us that history is rarely a simple tale of wonder, but a complex tapestry where light and shadow are inextricably linked, challenging us to look deeper and understand more fully. The emperor's fear of death was not a quiet dread, but a driving force that reshaped his entire reign. His court became a hub for alchemists, practitioners of an ancient proto-science that sought the secrets of transformation, primarily how to turn base metals into gold, and more importantly, how to transform a mortal body into an immortal one. These scholars and mystics believed that consuming certain rare, pure substances could purify the human form, halting decay and granting eternal youth. Mercury, with its captivating liquid metal beauty, and powdered jade, a stone revered for its purity and durability, were considered prime ingredients for these life-extending elixirs. Historical records strongly suggest that Qin Shi Huang became a devoted consumer of such concoctions, swallowing pills laden with these very materials. The tragic irony is almost too profound to grasp. In his fervent quest to cheat death, he was likely slowly poisoning himself, ingesting the toxin he would later immortalize in his tomb. This personal obsession did not stop at the palace walls. His belief was so absolute that he organized grand, state-funded expeditions, sending fleets of ships and hundreds of young men and women eastward across the sea. Their mission was to locate the mythical Pinglai Islands, a paradise said to be home to immortal sages who possessed the true elixir of life. None of these envoys ever returned with the prize, vanishing into legend and leaving the emperor to rely ever more heavily on his court alchemists and their dangerous recipes. This context transforms the tomb from a simple burial site into something far more intentional. The Mercury River was not merely a symbolic map or a security system. It was the culmination of his lifelong alchemical pursuit, scaled up to a monumental degree. If consuming a little mercury in a pill might prolong life, then surrounding his physical form with an entire flowing river of it, in a chamber designed as a microcosm of the universe, might achieve the ultimate goal, perpetual transformation. The tomb becomes a sealed laboratory, an eternal crucible where the most potent substance known to his science would work upon his remains forever. It represents a breathtaking and ultimately heartbreaking fusion of absolute political power with a desperate, mystical hope. He commanded the resources of a continent not just to build a memorial, but to conduct one final, grand experiment, attempting to use the geography of the afterlife to solve the one problem his earthly authority could not. From silent guardians of an emperor's tomb, these clay soldiers have marched into the very heart of our modern world. The Terracotta Army is no longer just an archaeological wonder. It is a global symbol, instantly recognizable and endlessly reinterpreted. You can find them in blockbuster films, where they are often animated by magic to serve as an unstoppable, ancient force. They appear in video games as formidable enemies or awe-inspiring backdrops, representing a deep, mysterious history. In novels and graphic stories, they serve as silent witnesses to epic tales. Across these mediums, they consistently embody a few powerful themes: an aura of ancient, unknowable mystery, the silent endurance of history itself, and the overwhelming, impersonal power of a vast empire. They are a visual shorthand for something both magnificent and profoundly old, a story written in clay that our modern stories love to borrow. This cultural journey transforms them from historical artifacts into active participants in our collective imagination. They have become blank slates, or perhaps more accurately, blank faces, upon which we project our own contemporary narratives about power, legacy, and the human yearning to leave a mark that outlasts us. In a world fascinated by artificial intelligence and robotics, their nature as manufactured yet individualized beings feels newly resonant. They prompt us to ask, what does it mean to create a legacy? Is it through grand monuments, through the stories told about us, or through the silent, enduring presence of our work long after we are gone? The warriors in their patient ranks offer no answer, but they powerfully frame the question. Within China itself, their meaning carries an even deeper, more profound weight. They are a direct, tangible link to the very moment of national unification, the foundational act of Qin Shi Huang that began the long, continuous thread of Chinese civilization. They are not merely old, they are origin. For the modern nation, they are an immense source of pride and cultural identity, a physical proof of ancient sophistication and organizational genius that stands comparison with any wonder of the ancient world. They serve as the ultimate ambassadors of Chinese history, welcoming millions of international visitors to Shaanxi province every year. To walk among them is to take a pilgrimage to the dawn of an empire. This domestic reverence ensures their preservation is a national priority, blending scientific archaeology with a deep sense of custodianship for a shared heritage. The warriors symbolize resilience, having endured through centuries of obscurity to be rediscovered and celebrated. In this way, they mirror the narrative of the culture they come from, a story of endurance, brilliant achievement, and an unbroken connection to a monumental past. They remind every visitor, local and foreign, that some creations are built not just for a decade or a century, but for all of time, destined to speak across the millennia in a silent language of ambition and artistry. Their quiet presence continues to shape how history is understood, felt, and valued, proving that the most powerful legacies are those that can hold their silence for 2,000 years and still command the world's attention. While we cannot see inside the central mound, we are not left to guess in total darkness. By weaving together the threads of ancient texts, modern geophysical scans, and discoveries from nearby tombs of the era, scholars have begun to sketch a probable blueprint for this subterranean palace. The prevailing theory suggests it is not a single room, but a sprawling, multi-chambered complex, a meticulous inversion of the world above. At its heart would lie the main burial chamber, housing the emperor's final resting place, likely within nested coffins of precious materials. Radiating from this central point could be a series of dedicated treasury rooms, holding the unimaginable wealth and ritual objects meant for his use in eternity, from jade suits to ceremonial bronzes. Other chambers might serve as stables for symbolic steeds or administrative offices, complete with terracotta scribes to manage the affairs of the underworld court. This layout transforms the tomb from a grave into a functional, albeit ghostly, seat of government. The most captivating element, of course, is the legendary Mercury. Experts propose it did not sit in a simple trough. Instead, it likely coursed through channels carved into the floor, flowing across a vast, three-dimensional model of the Qin Empire's geography. Miniature mountains of bronze might have risen beside these shimmering toxic rivers, with pearls embedded in the ceiling above to chart the constellations, creating a complete cosmic mirror. This speculative reconstruction, while unverified, is crucial. It shifts our mental image from a static burial vault to a dynamic, engineered landscape. It helps us visualize the tomb as a literal heaven on earth built in reverse, an entire microcosm sealed beneath the soil where geography was frozen. The stars were fixed in place, and time itself was meant to stand still for one man's everlasting reign. This colossal project was not born from vanity, but from a profound and urgent spiritual vision. To see the necropolis as merely a grand tomb is to miss its true purpose. It was a meticulously engineered transition device, built to solve the most critical problem of Qin Shi Huang's existence, the journey after death. The spiritual landscape of his era was a rich tapestry woven from ancient ancestor worship, emerging Taoist philosophy, and deep-rooted folk beliefs about the afterlife. In this worldview, death was not an end, but a passage to a parallel realm, a shadowy duplicate of the living world where one's social status and needs continued. The emperor's paramount concern, then, was to ensure his passage was successful and that he arrived in that new realm with his authority intact, ready to rule. This belief system transforms every artifact from a burial good into a functional tool for eternity. The Terracotta Army was not a symbolic honor guard. It was his actual, necessary military force for the afterlife, required to protect his spirit from malevolent forces and rival underworld powers. The bronze chariots were his essential transport for navigating the spirit world. The bureaucrats and musicians were not for show. They were vital staff needed to administer his domain and provide the comforts befitting a sovereign. The Mercury rivers served a triple purpose: a map to orient his spirit within the cosmic geography, a magical substance to purify and transform his essence, and a potent barrier against spiritual corruption. In this light, the staggering expenditure of wealth and human life shifts from a display of extravagance to a catastrophic but logical investment. For the first emperor and his advisors, these were not optional luxuries, they were critical provisions for an endless journey. The tomb itself was far more than a resting place. It was a sealed portal, a fortified embassy for his soul in the unknown territory of the afterlife. His entire earthly reign had been about imposing perfect order on the chaos of warring states. The Necropolis was his final, most ambitious act of control, an attempt to impose that same perfect order on the chaos of death itself. He was not building a memorial, he was constructing a bridge, and he intended to cross it with his entire empire in tow. The grassy mound is not the only secret this land keeps. Scattered across the necropolis, archaeologists have identified nearly 200 other pits and burial sites, most of them still sealed beneath the earth. These peripheral chambers represent the untold subplots of this grand story, each one a locked box waiting to reveal its piece of the puzzle. While the central tomb presents an overwhelming ethical and technical challenge, these smaller satellite sites offer a different kind of promise. They are the accessible frontiers, the places where we can cautiously advance our understanding without confronting the immediate dangers of Mercury and irreversible decay. So, what might these unopened vaults contain? The possibilities are as varied as the empire they served. Some almost certainly hold more terracotta figures, perhaps depicting civil officials, servants, or even exotic animals for a royal menagerie in the afterlife. Others could be the final resting places of the emperor's highest advisors, his family members, or the generals who led his real armies, buried with honors and their own grave goods to accompany them into the next realm. Then there are the practical necessities of eternity. We might find armories stocked with real bronze weapons, still sharp and ready, or storehouses of ritual bronze vessels for ceremonies that would never end. But perhaps the most tantalizing possibility of all is the chance of finding archives. The Qin dynasty was famously bureaucratic, and they recorded everything on narrow strips of bamboo, bound together with cord. An undisturbed pit containing such administrative records would be a historian's dream. It could offer day-to-day accounts of the tomb's construction, lists of workers and supplies, edicts from the emperor himself, or even philosophical and legal texts that have been lost for millennia. Each of these pits is a potential time capsule, less glamorous than a Mercury river, but potentially richer in the quiet, detailed truths that build our picture of a civilization. Excavating them carefully, one by one, allows science to proceed with humility. Every new finding from a peripheral pit adds another piece to the mosaic, helping us map the full extent of this funerary city and understand the society that built it. These sites remind us that history is not a single revelation, but a patient conversation, where even the quieter voices from the edges can profoundly reshape the story at the center. This global puzzle demands a global team. Unraveling the secrets of the necropolis without disturbing it has become one of the most fascinating international scientific collaborations of our time. It is a quiet convergence of disciplines where experts in geochemistry, remote sensing, materials science, and digital preservation from institutions worldwide bring their unique tools to a shared table. Their common goal is not to dig, but to listen, to see through the earth with a kind of technological sixth sense. One of the most extraordinary techniques being deployed sounds like science fiction. It is called muon tomography. This method uses a natural, constant rain of cosmic rays from deep space. These subatomic particles, called muons, pass through matter at different rates depending on its density. By placing sensitive detectors around the burial mound, scientists can measure how many muons pass through. Areas of high density, like a buried stone wall or a metal deposit, will block more muons, while voids or chambers will allow more to pass. Over time, this data builds up a shadowy, three-dimensional X-ray of the internal structure, all without ever breaking ground. This is just one example of how 21st century physics is becoming our primary tool for studying a 3rd century before Common Era site. The collaboration fosters a profound international dialogue, a modern meeting of minds dedicated to a single, ancient mystery. German specialists might analyze soil samples for minute chemical traces, while Italian teams advise on preserving fragile pigments, and Chinese archaeologists provide the deep historical context. This collective effort is a testament to a new kind of respect for cultural heritage. It prioritizes preservation over possession, understanding over excavation. The shared quest is for knowledge, but it is knowledge gained through patience and non-invasive ingenuity, ensuring that the silent city of the first emperor can continue to guard its mysteries until we are truly ready to meet them. The emperor's legacy is a story carved from two opposing stones. On one hand, Qin Shi Huang was a foundational architect, the unifier who forged a single Chinese nation from 7 warring states. His sweeping reforms created the bedrock for a continuous civilization that would endure for over 2,000 years. He standardized the written script, allowing people from different regions to communicate, a change so profound it still connects modern Chinese readers to ancient texts. He unified weights, measures, and even the axle widths of carts, so wagons could travel smoothly on any road in the empire. He connected and extended existing fortifications into the first iteration of what we now call the Great Wall, a monumental feat of defensive engineering. These were not just administrative changes, they were the very pillars of a shared identity, creating a cohesive cultural and political entity that outlasted his own dynasty by millennia. Yet, the same hand that built these foundations also wielded power with terrifying severity. To enforce ideological conformity and crush dissent, he ordered the burning of books, particularly historical records and philosophical texts from rival schools of thought that challenged his legalist doctrine. This act was an attempt to control memory itself, to erase competing narratives of the past. Furthermore, ancient historians recount that he buried hundreds of scholars alive, accusing them of deception and subversion. Whether this account is literal or symbolic, it speaks to a reign where intellectual opposition was met with the ultimate punishment. His rule was characterized by immense projects built through conscripted labor under brutal conditions, where the needs of the state completely overrode the welfare of the individual. This is the central, enduring paradox of the first emperor, a man whose vision created the framework for a lasting civilization, yet whose methods were those of an absolute and often ruthless autocrat. His tomb complex stands as the ultimate physical manifestation of this duality. It is an artistic and engineering marvel that stuns the world, a testament to human creativity, organization, and the desire to create something eternal. Every unique terracotta face, every bronze chariot wheel that turns, speaks to a pinnacle of ancient achievement. Yet, this timeless beauty was born from a system of mass coercion and profound suffering, from the labor of hundreds of thousands and the silencing of those who knew its secrets. The sight forces us to hold two conflicting truths in our minds at once, to admire the grandeur while acknowledging the immense human cost required to achieve it. It is a monument that simultaneously celebrates human genius and memorializes its exploitation, a duality frozen in clay and bronze. In his relentless quest for physical immortality, Qin Shi Huang achieved a form of everlasting life, though not the one he so desperately sought. He did not become an eternal living god, but he did become an eternal figure in history. His name, his story, and the silent army he commissioned are now immortalized in the global imagination. The very tomb meant to hide him away has instead made him forever visible. He is remembered not as a serene, immortal ruler, but as one of history's most fascinating and cautionary figures, a man of monumental ambition and profound contradiction. His legacy is forever intertwined with the silent gaze of 8,000 clay soldiers and the shimmering, toxic secret of a Mercury river, a permanent reminder that the pursuit of forever can shape the world in ways we can never fully predict or control. The silent army has inspired as many legends as it has soldiers. it is time to gently separate the enduring myths from the even more compelling archaeological truth, not to diminish the wonder, but to deepen our appreciation for the complex reality. One of the most persistent stories is that each of the 8,000 warriors is a one-of-a-kind portrait of a real Qin dynasty soldier. While every face is indeed unique, this was not achieved through 8,000 separate, start-to-finish sculptures. The true process was a masterful blend of ancient mass production and handcrafted artistry. Artisans worked with a library of standardized molds for torsos, legs, and heads, creating a sturdy, uniform base. The breathtaking individuality came in the final stage, when wet clay was applied to these molded forms. Fingers, hairstyles, armor ties, and most importantly, facial features were all sculpted by hand. This system allowed for both staggering scale and profound variation. The faces likely reflect the artisan's own memories and observations, a collective portrait of a people rather than a regiment of named individuals. Another common image is of these figures standing whole and perfect as the day they were buried, simply waiting to be dusted off. The reality of their discovery was far more dramatic. When the roof of Pit 1 collapsed centuries ago, it sent a crushing weight of earth onto the assembled ranks. Most warriors were found shattered into countless fragments, a colossal three-dimensional puzzle buried in the mud. The serene, complete soldiers we see today are the result of decades of painstaking restoration, a quiet, ongoing triumph of modern conservation. Each reconstructed figure is a testament to patient skill, piecing together history from a sea of broken clay. Finally, there is the matter of the Mercury River. Scientific soil surveys have provided powerful evidence that high concentrations of mercury are present within the tomb structure, strongly corroborating the ancient text. However, to say it is definitively mapped and proven is a step beyond what current science allows. The geochemical signals tell us mercury is there in abundance, and its distribution suggests a flowing pattern. But its exact form, whether it lies in sealed bronze channels, pooled in reservoirs, or has long since seeped into the earth, remains an educated guess. We know the ingredient is present, but the recipe of the underground landscape is still a mystery. Correcting these stories does not make the site any less miraculous. If anything, it amplifies the achievement. Understanding that this army was built through an ingenious assembly system makes their logistical creation more astounding, not less. Knowing they rose from fragments makes their restoration a continuing chapter of human dedication. And recognizing that the Mercury's secrets are still held tight reminds us that some doors are best left unopened until we are truly ready to understand what lies behind them. The truth, as it so often is more fascinating than the fiction, a story of human ingenuity, patience, and the respectful pause we must sometimes take before the past. This instinct to place a river at the gate of eternity is a story humanity has told itself across the globe. Far from being a unique obsession, Qin Shi Huang's Mercury channels resonate with some of our oldest and most powerful myths. In ancient Greece, the departed soul had to cross the river Styx, its dark waters forming the final, irrevocable boundary between the world of the living and the realm of Hades. Celtic legends spoke of hidden streams and wells that served as portals to the otherworld, places of both peril and transformation. These stories, born from cultures with no possible contact with ancient China, share a profound narrative blueprint. They envision the journey after life not as an instant transition, but as a voyage, one that requires navigating a treacherous, often liquid frontier. The river is more than a physical obstacle. It is a psychological and spiritual test, a symbol of purification and the point of no return. Seeing the first emperor's project through this lens is transformative. It shifts our perspective from a singular historical oddity to a breathtakingly literal interpretation of a universal archetype. Where mythographers imagined the river Styx, Qin Shi Huang's engineers attempted to build it. He did not merely want a symbolic representation of a barrier, he sought to construct the actual, physical mechanism of passage within his own tomb. His Mercury River was to be his personal Styx, a crossing he alone would navigate, transforming a shared mythological concept into a private, alchemical reality. This connection elevates his ambition from a personal fear into a chapter of a much larger human story. It reveals that his drive to conquer death was channeled through a narrative form understood across millennia and continents. He was not just building a tomb, he was staging a myth, casting himself as the central figure in an underworld journey of his own design, using the most advanced science of his age to manifest one of humanity's oldest tales. The future of the site hangs in a delicate balance between two powerful human impulses, our drive to know and our duty to preserve. Technological advancement is relentless, and it is tempting to dream of a day when perfect tools will allow us to enter the tomb without risk. Perhaps swarms of microscopic robots could map the interior, or a method of instant atmospheric freezing could solidify the environment the moment it is breached, locking every artifact in stasis. The promise is intoxicating, the chance to finally gaze upon the Mercury rivers and the Emperor's chamber without causing harm. Yet, this vision carries its own weight. It assumes that our technological reach will someday outpace the profound fragility of what we seek. The terracotta warriors taught us a humbling lesson about the violence of exposure, how centuries of stable darkness can unravel in minutes under modern conditions. For every new scanning technique we master, we discover another layer of vulnerability in the materials of the past. The central tomb may represent a threshold our tools will never safely cross, not because of a lack of ingenuity, but because the very act of verification is, by its nature, an act of disturbance. Some silences, once broken, cannot be restored. This leads us to a profound, perhaps necessary, alternative. What if the ultimate act of 21st century wisdom is not to open the tomb, but to honor its sealed state? To choose, consciously and collectively, to let the mystery stand. This would transform the mound from an unsolved puzzle into a different kind of monument, one dedicated to the limits of our own knowledge and the virtue of restraint. It would acknowledge that some chapters of history are meant to be read only in their introduction, their conclusions left to the imagination. In doing so, we would allow the site to finally fulfill its 2,000-year-old purpose, not as a museum exhibit, but as exactly what its creator intended, an eternal, undisturbed palace. The greatest revelation may not lie in what we find inside, but in what we learn about ourselves by choosing to leave it be. It asks us to value the integrity of a story over our desire to know its ending, to protect the question itself as a sacred part of our shared heritage. The silent emperor, guarded by his clay legions and his shimmering, toxic rivers, would then achieve a form of victory. His demand for perpetual seclusion, imposed by ancient decree, would be granted anew by modern respect, a bridge of understanding across the millennia forged not by excavation but by empathy. The journey from a farmer's well to a cosmic map of Mercury is a story written in earth, ambition, and silence. It began with a single clay head emerging from the dry soil, a chance encounter that unlocked the gates to an entire underworld kingdom. From that moment, we have followed a trail of clues both artistic and scientific, from the hand-sculpted brows of 8,000 soldiers to the ghostly chemical signature of a toxic river deep below. This is not merely an archaeological site, it is a conversation across millennia, one that speaks to the very core of human nature. We see our capacity for breathtaking artistry in every unique terracotta face, and our genius for engineering in the bronze chariots with their turning wheels. We witness spiritual longing in the alchemical river meant to grant eternal life, and we confront the sobering cost of absolute power in the silent stories of those who built it. These threads, art, science, faith, and force, are woven together so tightly here that they cannot be separated. To understand one is to grapple with all. The warriors stand in their patient ranks, a testament to what we can create. The unopened mound rests quietly, a testament to what we must, for now, respectfully choose not to disturb. That Mercury likely still flows in its hidden channels, a shimmering, poisonous paradox guarding a dream of immortality that ultimately poisoned the dreamer himself. This legacy challenges us not just with historical questions, but with ethical ones that are profoundly modern. It asks how we balance our hunger for knowledge with our duty to preserve, and whether some mysteries hold more power when left intact. As the sun sets over the necropolis, those silent sentinels continue their eternal vigil. They guard not just an emperor, but a permanent question mark in human history. What other wonders lie buried around the world, waiting for their moment of discovery or their rightful eternity of rest? If this journey into the heart of an ancient enigma captivated you, there are countless more puzzles from the past waiting to be explored. Subscribe to join us as we uncover history's greatest unsolved mysteries, and we would truly love to hear your perspective. After this deep dive, where do you stand? Should we one day open the tomb, seeking its truths no matter the risk, or do we let sleeping emperors lie, honoring the silence they so meticulously engineered? The debate, like the army itself, endures.